Fantastic. I love to see my former students. We would love to introduce you guys and just kind of let us know, give us your name. We know your, I mean, obviously I know you guys very well, but for our current teachers, staff, students, give them your name, what year you graduated or finished at Somersfield, because maybe you didn't graduate, maybe you went off to another school first on the way to university, and what you're doing now, what you've been up to.
I'll go first. First of all, it's so nice to see you, Mr. Hammer. I haven't spoke to you in a long time, and I think it's been way too long since I last spoke.
Likewise, great to see you too, man, for sure.
Also, everyone else, I went to Somersfield with Hannah and Georgia and Sion. I think Maya, you might be a bit younger than me, and the other Hannah as well. So it's honestly so nice to see all of you. My name is Toro Hinds. I have not been able to change my name here, so you see me as Teacher Toro. I think that shows you a little bit about what I'm doing at the moment. I went to Somersfield for, I want to say 11 or 12 years, and I finished in 2012. And I left Somersfield and moved to England, where I did 2 years of high schools, and then finally went to university in Bristol for 5 years, doing my undergraduate and master's degree. And then I moved to Vietnam, where I've been living for almost 5 years now. It'll be 5 years in February. And at the moment in Vietnam, I am a teacher. I am running a NGO, and I'm also doing my own business. So I'm very busy. I've taken on too many things. And just like I was at Somersfield, I am constantly stressed. But I am loving everything I'm doing. I get to work with young kids every day, both from fortunate and unfortunate backgrounds. And this experience altogether has been really heartwarming and has made me grown a lot as a person, I have to say.
Now.
Yeah, so I'm Georgia Harris, and I did around 9 years at Somersfield. I started there when I was 8. I moved from England, started around P4, and then I finished in 2011, and I went to BHS afterwards just because Somersfield didn't have the 2 IB years at that point in time. And then I went to Philadelphia for university, where I studied accounting and minored in finance and played Division I field hockey. And then I've now since been back in Bermuda since 2017 and worked at PwC, Athene, and now I'm at Resolution Re, which is an accounting firm, and I'm still studying for my accounting degree and still playing field hockey.
Nice to see you guys. It's always a pleasure to see all my fellow Somersfieldians. It's nice to see you, Jason. You're not in Bermuda though. You're in Florida.
I'm in Florida. I'm trying to get back for January if they'll let me back in.
Yeah, that'd be exciting.
You put a good word in for me and I'll make it back.
Yeah, let's do it. So I was at Somersfield for 12 years. I started before we were even in Devonshire. I think it was the grounds were in Warwick. And so that was a big home for me for a long time. I then went off and did my IB in Germany for 3 years actually, because I left in M4. And then I went to Cardiff, Wales, and did my environmental science degree out there. Got my Bachelor of Science. And then I came home, did a gap year, and COVID hit. And I started working here at BUEI. And it kind of sucked me in, and I'm running the education programs here. I do the camps and the classes. We taught over 7,500 students this year, island-wide. So that's really exciting.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rajeh. It's good to meet most of you because I only really know Mr. Hammer and Hana Bushara. But yeah, I started at Somersfield in P5 and graduated from the IB DP program in 2023. So quite a recent graduate here. And now I'm at Davidson College in North Carolina. I'm in my second year now. I'm studying psychology and economics, and I just got home a couple days ago. I'm interning this week until Christmas, and hopefully we'll relax for the rest of the break before heading back.
It's so good to see everyone. I saw Maya yesterday on the street. It was nice to wave at you from across the street. But my name's Hana Bushara. I was at Somersfield for 13 years, I think. I graduated in 2015. And then I did my last 2 years of IB, or my 2 years of IB at the United World College of the Adriatic in Italy. And then I did my bachelor's at St. Lawrence University in upstate New York, which is also where Karim Creary went to university. So I think having that in the back of my head gave me some comfort in making that decision. And I majored in global studies and I minored in sociology and music. Somersfield definitely ignited my passion, my ongoing passion for music. And then I tried to pursue my master's in London at the London School of Economics. Ended up coming home twice, which maybe we can or won't talk about. But
Yeah, we
I
can talk
think,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, doing that and not being able to finish served as one of my greatest teachers. But I was fortunate enough to come home, and now I'm working in reinsurance, which was a big plot twist in my life. But I also am continuing to pursue my career in music, so I feel a bit like Hannah Montana doing both, but life is pretty good. So I'm grateful for that too.
Yeah,
My name is Sion Symonds. I went to Somersfield for 8 years. I graduated in 2016. After I finished at Somersfield, I went to BHS and did my IB diploma for the 2 years. Then I went to York University in Toronto, Canada, got my bachelor's in political science or global political studies. Then I got my master's recently at the University of East London in contemporary performance practices. So it's like a blend of political theory and performance practice. And right now I'm working at the Department of Culture. And I'm between Bermuda and London, and I've been making creative stuff and learning, and cool enough, I got to create a play for my dissertation, and I got a distinction. So darling shit. Yeah, it was a cool experience, and I'm home right now, heading back to London in January, but I'm trying to give back and take part in things like this.
beautiful. And we're so happy to have you back. Somersfield, what is your favorite memory you have from your time at Somersfield?
I mean, there's so many, right? Because 8 years isn't a small window. But I just honestly, one that comes to mind is the basketball practices with you as our coach. I remember like so many times where we just after finishing practice, after running our drills, we would just sit and decompress, and like being able to share spaces with our teachers and like a teacher like yourself, and like just have informal wisdom imparted, because obviously in the classroom we learn as much as we do, but it's really those moments outside of class when you're not obligated to continue to teach, but you do still. Like I just think of so many practices, and I'm gonna shout out my mates like Nasser, Tamiko, Jasari. Like I remember all of us, like we would leave practice and we're like, damn, that was cool, like like I really appreciate those moments where I was able to like learn from my teachers and also learn that you are all complex and caring individuals, which is so invaluable.
Yeah.
Something that Somersfield really helped me with was actually presenting and standing in front of large groups of people. I mean, one of my most, like, I think I was 11 when I went to like a summer camp, and when I was at the very end of it, was able to stand in front of all of these random strangers and talk about that. And that was something that I learned from all of those torturous PowerPoints that we had to do through, and the NYP, I think, was mainly the PowerPoints. I found one on my family tree the other day too from that. But that was definitely something that I can take away, and now I can stand in front of all kinds of groups of students and teach and be able to express and say what you're thinking without that nervous factor. And I think that really comes from Somersfield for sure.
I really agree with what Hannah's saying as well. I actually also found that family tree project that I did with you, Mr. Hammer, last summer, and it was amazing going to be able to go back and see that. But for me, one of the values that I think I've learned from Somersfield that really sticks with me today is respect for other cultures. Ever since a young age, every year we had International Day where we'd be given a different country. I remember one of my countries was Paraguay, and another year it was Egypt. And I was learning about cultures and other people from a very young age. And in my own life, since I've moved to other countries and moved to crazy different cultures like Vietnam, I've been able to integrate better and easier because of the values I learned at Somersfield. And I think that's a really big thing for me.
People or moments, is there a teacher or staff member who had a significant impact on you and what made them stand out?
I can definitely speak on this one. Miss Amaral was, my everything at Somersfield. I mean, primarily she was my English teacher, and of course I learned so much from her, and I always looked forward to class with her. But beyond that, she was also my advisor for the personal project. And so I got to know her on that level, and she got to know me on that level. And then beyond that, she was also heading up the Right to Cook co-curricular, which was my all-time favorite co-curricular. And we had so much fun cooking in the Somersfield kitchen. And we even got to go to her house and try some foods that people were making and presenting their recipes. So just so many ways that she was integrated in my life during Somersfield. Like I carry those memories with me, and I just always love catching up with her when we run into each other.
That's brilliant. I know she's a brilliant educator, but she's also like, I think, a published author as well. Like this, like she really does this stuff that she's teaching. She really does it at a high level.
Correct. Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Maya.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that I feel like if I went through every year at Somersfield, I could highlight like at least three different educators that left, educators and administrators that left some huge impact on my experience and like my life. Like I think of Miss Stacy Williams and her involvement with SDLC, with diversity. I think of Miss Tina Outerbridge. I think of Mrs. Symonds. I think of Mrs. Jaraki. Like there are so many educators that helped create like the culture of that school that have had such huge impacts. And I think like in no short measure yourself, Mr. Hammer, like your role and your impact is huge and it's spoken about by everyone, Like I'm sure when everyone saw your name, they were like, Hammer's the one doing it? Oh yeah, I'm there.
Thank you.
Like
I appreciate that.
like I can't
When I saw you guys' name, I felt the same excitement. I felt just
Listen.
excited. Yeah.
Like it can be overstated how impactful a lot of you are. Like and to answer the question specifically, I think of Miss Summer Wood. She was she was my art teacher.
Mhm.
And if I had to remember, like I think of like two instances. I remember the way that she would teach us, and right, she was teaching visual arts. But I remember we were in the classroom and we were all like 14, 13, 14, whatever. And at that point, you don't know nearly as well how to be respectful in a space. So I remember we were using language that wasn't the best. And I remember like she did such a great job of explaining to us the impact of words. Like she was like, the language you use is so important. And the names that you give your peers, yourself, like the people around you, like they have so much power. So it's so important to be very cognizant of what you're saying. And she was like, you will absolutely not be using any sort of hurtful language in this classroom, in this school, or anywhere that like I can catch wind of you. And we were like, oh damn, all right. Like, and it's only years later when you reflect that you're like, that was huge. And just to add on that, I think what was so funny about that is that in that classroom, that was the first one where as we were making art, we were allowed to listen to like profane music out loud, as long as it wasn't too like crazy, right? So like it was cool to see how like it's not as simple as curse words, right? It's about the language itself. And I thought that was such a huge lesson that I carry on even now, because you can consume certain media, but it's important that what you're reproducing is intentional and respectful. So yeah, shout out to Miss Wood for that.
Was there a moment when you realized the importance of what you were learning at Somersfield?
Well, I can answer this one so that I can answer the last question. There are so many teachers that I love and cherish, and who the things that you have taught me and instilled me with are just invaluable. So thank you. Hammer, you're number one draft pick.
Thank you for that. You're my number one draft pick of the Bushara family. They got such an amazing family, but I drafted the number one draft pick. I got it first.
I think somebody who came to mind is Miss Turner. I call her Auntie Maha. And I think it feeds into this question, because one of the most important things that I'm still working on now, that she taught me and that we practiced since we were 3 years old, is saying sorry. And I think a lot of people have a difficult time acknowledging their wrongdoing or where they faulted. And I think it's a difficult thing to say sorry, because you're exposing a vulnerability. It's an acknowledgement of something that you've done wrong that you perhaps wish you'd done differently. And I think being in 3 to 6 and having or building that skill set they call it emotional intelligence now. It's like a buzzword now, but that just being our way of being since young. I'm so grateful for that. Like for the people listening, if you didn't experience this, when we were like 3, 4, 5 years old and you tussled with another person or there was a disagreement, you'd go to the peace corner. And this was in all 3 to 6 classrooms. And you'd say that you were sorry and you'd let the other person know how you felt. And that person had the space to do the same. And that's obviously not, you don't have the space to do that all the time, but just knowing that there's often more space than you think to acknowledge your own shortcoming or giving space for somebody to do the same thing. I think we try to fill space with noise a lot of the time, and we don't leave space for either silence or for to say the things that we really mean. And so I'm grateful to have had that experience when I was 3 years old.
And Montessori is such like a holistic method of teaching people to be humans. So the fact that you learn that there and later in life, like how many times in the professional world, things could be solved if people just acknowledge, hey, I messed up, I apologize, and we can move on. It's a lot more difficult to move on if someone doesn't apologize. What advice would you give to current staff about preparing students for the future?
I see a lot of the teachers that come through my classrooms here. I see some of them even out socially. There's a really great batch of primary teachers right now doing the Montessori. I also have friends who have just decided where to send their youth, and of course, when they choose Somersfield, I'm like, big up, that's the school. But Montessori really does make a big difference, and my advice to the teachers would be just like Georgia had said about being themselves and that relationship that you're having with the students. Simon, you'd also said it's like outside the classroom, those small moments that you take to just spend with a child, to talk to them, kind of to let them express themselves or just ways that you relate to the students, that makes a huge impact. I mean, we just had a reunion recently with a whole bunch of kids from my year, and definitely all sitting together. Hannah actually serenaded us with her guitar. But having that chance to talk to one another, and then the amount of times kind of bring up those amazing teachers that we talked about, and like what the teachers are doing now makes a huge impact, but in the most positive way. Like when those negative moments, they sink like a rock to the bottom, and that positive stuff floats like a buoy, and like you really make a serious impact on all of the youths that come through.
I think too, kind of going off of what Hannah said, like I know from my year, there are some people who at the time were like, oh, we can't wait to like be finished with school, we're done. And now they look back at it and they're like, Somersfield was the best. Like it was, and so many of us speak about that. And in the moment, like you could have a kid who is like completely like hating it, and that's normal. Like kids hate school. Like it's not something kids gonna be like, hey, can't wait.
That's a great
But I
reminder.
think just knowing that like you're still making an impact, and what we're I think all kind of saying is that it wasn't just the classroom stuff, and know that what you're doing, like if you see someone in the hallway, like checking in on them, don't just wait until they're in your classroom. And I think Somersfield, at least when I was there and the times that I've gone back to visit, does that really well, and it's what makes them stand out to the other schools on the island, in my opinion. And I think just continue doing that and continue having that culture, because when I look at Somersfield, it's like a family, and that's something that you don't want to shift the balance in.
I think that was very well said. And I'll add to that by saying, I think the out of classroom interactions matter just as much as the in classroom interactions. And a lot of the things that I remember that I still hold dearly and that I even laugh about, like Hannah was talking about, happened outside of the classroom. I mean, we had great moments in the classroom, but being able to, see a faculty member coming out at interschool or at sports day and, calling out your name, or running into them in the hallway and catching up on something that's unrelated to class material. I mean, all of those things seem so subtle and so small, but those are the things that we leave Somersfield remembering. And I think it's always important to kind of refer back to that and be that listener. And we all know, I mean, these teachers are amazing. They're the best of the best. And I think we can all feel comfortable going to any one of these individuals and coming to them with a problem and having them be that active listener. And I think those small roles, I mean, teachers have so much power in that and shaping us with that. So that would be kind of my advice and something that I've cherished.
That's great advice and insights. And I think, yeah, the best teachers at Somersfield, they definitely did that. And I remember like even having some of my teacher friends who were from the States come and, experience Bermuda with me as kind of like their tour guide. And then encountering Somersfield students and, in different parts of Bermuda and, greeting everybody and like, man, this is your students like this? And I said, well, we don't really have students. They're kind of like our nieces and nephews. It's more like nieces and nephews than our students. And, the way that it is maybe more formal in some schools. So I'm glad that you guys bring that up and that you appreciate that because it's one of the things that I think that all of us love. I know myself, Mr. Wade, Mr. Judd, those teachers that you met or mentioned, that we love that about Somersfield. Toro, who's an educator now, what advice do you have for your fellow educators at Somersfield in preparing students for the future?
I would really like to touch on what Maya just said, and that's the outside interactions we had with our teachers, as well as the interactions inside the classroom. And for me, it's the real empathy and love that you guys showed us. I really, really felt that you cared about me. And that has impacted my own approach to teaching. But I remember that you were my biggest supporters. So before I was good at sports, you were the people that told me I was. You were the people that believed in me. I remember going to interschool sports and losing every year. And it wasn't until I started becoming 13, 14, 15, every year, Mr. Wade, Mrs. Pimentel, truly believing me. And then finally, when I was about 14, 15 years old, I was best on the island. I was winning. I was getting gold. And
You represent
believed.
Bermuda. We came and
I
saw,
represent-
we came and watched you and Karim run representing Bermuda.
Yes, you did. You came and watched me in the Crifta games. And you were the first people, along with my parents, that actually believed that I was able to do that before I believed in that myself. And for me, that is huge. Showing me that love and compassion and really actually showing that you cared gave me more of a belief for myself. And for me, as an educator now, that is something that I try to do myself. And it's something that I think you guys did very well for me.
Yes, I feel like I hope I don't sound redundant because I feel like everyone hit the nail on the head. But I think of this quote. This is me getting into my poli sci bag. There's a quote by James Baldwin where he says, "The children are always ours," and I feel like Summerfield in my day, in my experience, like that was it. So I guess my piece of advice or my demand is if you are an educator at Somersfield or if you're an educator, period, continue to care. And if you can't find it in you to care, then stop teaching. Because like if not for the teachers that believed in me similarly to everyone else's experiences, like if not for the belief and support and genuine care and love that I received, if not for that, I wouldn't be nearly as far along as I am. And I wouldn't be the man that I am. And I'm so grateful for educators that continued to prioritize the well-being of their students because that's what it's all about. So shout out to Somersfield and shout out to the educators that love and care.
Thank you for saying that. We definitely love you guys and put a lot of work into it. I did get a note from my wife, who's a Montessori teacher, and she wanted me to make sure that I state this, that in Montessori, they're called GEMs, genuine encounter moments. So like we have a chance to like educate people. This is what I'm saying. Like Montessori, I'm a fan of it. I tease them all the time about like maybe maybe Montessori is a cult or something like that. But I really think it's a holistic way of learning and teaching people to be humans. But yeah, genuine encounter moments that you can teach people outside of the classroom and the curriculum. I do have a few more questions. I know we're trying to stay on time as much as we can, though we do want the teachers to have some work to do on their PD day. God forbid they get back from a winter vacation and get to work in their classrooms or prepare their curriculum. They need to be in doing their PD. I'm saying I'm not a teacher anymore, so I can say those types of things. What do you hope to see from Somersfield, your school, that you help build, they help build you, and you also help build? What do you hope to see from Somersfield in the future as we continue to evolve?
I think for Somersfield, just to see their athletic continue to grow, because since when I left, it seems like they're doing a lot better. Because before we weren't even looked at as a school that could even compete against them, and now we're winning. And I think that's great because whilst obviously what you're learning in the classroom is great, coming from someone who I went to university because of field hockey. I did not do great in IB at BHS, and I got a full ride because of field hockey. So sports can, like, they go hand in hand with the education aspect. I think that's something that Somersfield shouldn't ever push to the side and should continue. Like, if you see someone like what Tora said that you think has any type of potential in athletics, whether it be badminton, field hockey, football, real football hammer, sorry, then make sure you're supporting them in that, because not everyone is a classroom-based student. Some people show it in different ways. And I think that's just how I personally would like to see Somersfield continue to grow, because I think they've done a great job from when I left.
Oh, is that because Mr. Wade has become a better coach, or because I left, or like what's going
I think similarly to Georgia, it's making sure that students at Somersfield are able to get support for whatever it is that they feel that they're either passionate about, or that thing that they feel that they're good at. As I'm getting older, I'm realizing that everything is a reflection of everything. And people have a unique opportunity, if they're fortunate enough, of course, to see the world through whatever lens they've either been that they've chosen, or they've been endowed with. And I, like Mr. Judd, saw that I had artistic capability, and I was struggling with expressing myself, and the personal project literally changed my life. And I still sing, and I'm still writing. I'm like going on tour next year with Heather Nova. Like, there are so many things that I've been able to do because there were educators that believed in me and were sharing themselves with me. Like Mr. Judd, like, gave me Joseph Campbell to read, which now I'm like, wow, like, what were you going through for you to be reading Joseph Campbell? And like Dominic O'Donnell, shout out Dominic, just directed a music video for Skepta in the UK. Like, he was not academically inclined, and now he's doing incredible things. And it's not so much, I guess my advice for educators is to stick to the fundamentals: love, peace, respect. We're a learning community. We practice peace. We inspire intellectual curiosity, whatever the Somersfield motto is. I can't remember the rest. But to make a mental note to the fundamentals of what it means to be a student or an educator at Somersfield, and to, through the school's evolution as it responds to the evolution of the times, knowing that there's a reason that the school was built on that foundation. And there have been so many success stories that have come from that. And that will continue to happen if we keep note of why the school was founded in the first place.
And success in so many different ways, like that you're mentioning, not just academic. I mean, obviously IB is very academically rigorous, but we had some brilliant students out beyond academics. So I'm glad you're mentioning that. What would they be? So relive an event or Somersfield tradition. What would it be? Or you could describe Somersfield in 3 words. What would that be?
Mine might be a controversial one, but I don't know if you remember the ticket scandal, Mr. Hammer.
My attorney asked me not to speak about this, so go ahead. But yeah, let's talk. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Long story short, you know, you guys remember the Somersfield Fair every May at the end of the year. One year, I don't know whose decision this was. They decided to put the raffle tickets for the fair right next to the boys' changing room. Again, don't know whose decision that was. Terrible idea. So obviously, we saw those tickets, and one by one, certain tickets started to go missing. And I think Mrs. Dodd.
Are you confessing right now? Is this a confession?
I didn't say I was the one that took the ticket.
But you're going to name names. You're going to name names.
I'm not naming names. And it's a controversial one because I remember the term "they can't suspend us all" was thrown around at the time. And we all ended up getting in trouble for it because we all knew about it. Not everyone took something, but getting in trouble as a year. And it was so funny. And Mr. Hammer, you were one of the people that really let us know what we did was wrong, and you educated us about it. And it was really just a funny experience. And it's something I share with all my classmates, and something that we still talk about to this day is the ticket scandal.
I do remember that. I got some names. Can I throw the names to you and you tell me if they're guilty or innocent?
Okay.
I was trying to think of one.
Come back to you. Want me to come back to you?
Well, I think, okay, no, I'll just speak to one. There were so many, but I think Mr. Kemp, rest in peace. Mr. Kemp performing at our end of year talent showcase. I think this is 2013, 2014. And nobody, or I didn't know, he'd always make music references in class, but we didn't know that he was a musician. And so when he came out and he performed, it was like it was kind of comical, but he had stage presence and everyone went crazy because we were like, Mr. Kempsey God. And we had no idea. But yeah, I guess just also seeing other sides of your teachers too, seeing the humanness.
When I was sitting there thinking about which event I would go back to, I thought about sports day, I thought about back to school barbecues. Like there were so many like just great times at Somersfield. But I again my mind landed on the trips because the trips were so much living and growing happen. The two big trips, because you know the weight and hammer trips, those were the big ones. You know, you gotta go on the weight and hammer trip. I remember I went to Greece and Rome on the Ecuador trip. I remember there was a rule that if you lost anything, there was a book full of songs and you had to sing to get it back. And I remember on one of our last nights, I think I like left a hat or like a bag, but it was something like important to me. And where it was like, I found something on the bus, and I was like, "Oh, did it belong to anyone?" He was like, "You know who it belonged to." He hands me the book. We're all at dinner. The dinner had just ended. He was like, "You're not getting your stuff back till you sing." I opened it up and it got to Barney, I Love You. And I remember I performed it all throughout this restaurant. All the servers were watching, they were clapping and all that. I remember everyone was laughing. I remember that was a really good experience. And
That was your foundation for being the performer that you are.
this is it.
You want to close us out in the Barney song before?
But I all those experiences, like listen, Somersfield has my heart. So if I had
Okay, Somersfield Academy alumni, we love you. Appreciate you guys so much for your time, your contribution, your expertise, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you and in the future doing more work with you. Goodbye. Can't wait to connect with all of you again in Bermuda, or if you're ever in Florida, come visit me here. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you, Mr. Hammer.
Bye. Love you
Love, Hammer,
guys. Love you
love.
too, Toro.
Love.
Love you.